welcome to Queers Quills, the official podcast. I'm audiobook narrator Kirt Graves. Every episode, I invite an attending author or narrator to join me for a one-on-one conversation about their lives and their art, so attendees and readers from across the world can get to know them not only as professionals, but as people. Joining me today is Leslie McAdam. Leslie is a California girl who loves romance and well-defined abs. She lives at a drafty old farmhouse on a small orange tree farm in Southern California with her husband and 2 children. You make it sound so idyllic. An avid reader from a young age, she will always trade watching TV for reading a book. Leslie is employed by day, but spends her nights writing about the people you fantasize about. She's unapologetically sarcastic, 3 snaps, and notoriously terrible at comma placement. Join the club. Welcome, Leslie.
Thanks for having me.
It is my pleasure. So we start with the same question for everybody, and it is, what is your author origin story?
I would love to tell you. So, in the beginning, I was 2 years old, and my mother taught me how to read.
Wow.
So I knew there is a book. It's a very simple book, but my mother wrote in it that Leslie learned how to read, and it was just shy of my 3rd birthday.
Yep.
So
wow.
I don't remember ever learning to read.
Right.
And I always knew how to read. And then I don't remember books ever not being part of my life, because my mom would spend an hour every evening reading to me. So fast forward to the elementary school kid, I would max out my library card every week. I did it as an adult, spend my library card instead of my credit card, just piles of books. And somewhere along the line, I guess when I was a little kid, I always thought, I want to be a children's book writer, because I was a little kid and I was reading children's books, and that's what I wanted to do. Somewhere along the line, I got the idea that I needed to be a responsible adult. I'm not sure that that's working out for me.
Boo.
But so went to college. I'm a lawyer. I've got a law degree. And in the year 2000, I was working in Sacramento for the legislature. And I walked out of my office into a bookstore, and I bought a notebook and went to the state capitol, sat on a bench, and started writing a story. And that was the first time, other than some adventures in as a very young child for a school project, that I had ever attempted to write fiction. And the story was ridiculous. It was, woman opens the door and Cary Grant walks in. And I just kind of kept writing it. Little by little, this was the time when, a few years later, National Novel Writing Month was getting started. And so I participated, my father participated, we both wrote stories.
Oh, that's cool.
I spent 15 years writing without showing anybody anything I'd ever written.
Oh, wow.
So I have complete novels, at least 4 screenplays, poetry, all kinds of stuff out there. So I've got a lot of unseen work that I did because I wanted to be a writer, but I wasn't doing that. I mean, I wasn't sharing it with anybody. I wasn't showing it to anybody. So I need to mention, I write romance now. I had never read a romance book until 2014. So my experience with romance books as a teenager was they were something to be made fun of.
Right.
The girl who brought them to Girl Scout camp, we teased her about it. And so I had a little bit of a chip on my shoulder about it. And this is where I would mention, if you're going to put a content warning on the show, this is where we probably should. The content warning would be for mental health and for suicide. So go ahead and skip, and we'll put in the notes how long.
Listener beware.
Listener beware. So I have a good job. I live in a farmhouse with a literal picket fence. I was a really good student. I got straight A's. I tried to do everything right, very much a people pleaser. And I was, in 2014, ready to give it up. I was driving around looking for a railroad track. And obviously I got help. I ended up taking like 6 weeks off of work. I checked myself. I'm the good girl, right? I got strip searched. I got locked up. I voluntarily did this because some very dear friends saved my life, literally.
Yeah.
And as part of that healing process, it was anxiety, it was depression. I'd heard those words and I never applied them to myself. And just as part of this healing process, it dawned on me that the only thing I ever wanted to do in my entire life was write. Like, that's it. I mean, if I'd been secretly writing for 14 years and had been a childhood, voracious reader, that maybe I should let myself write and maybe I should take this a little bit more seriously. So, during this time was when 50 Shades of Grey was very popular. Kindle, was getting started.
Right. Yeah.
And similar to my teenage experiences, the people around me were like, "Oh, Leslie, you're too innocent. You shouldn't read that. Oh, no, you shouldn't. And eventually I stopped listening and I just downloaded, it was 50 Shades. And I know that that's a loaded word, I suppose, in some circles, but for me, it literally saved my life. So I'm going to give it some props. I realized that I love stories. Like, that's what motivates me, is even looking back in some of those manuscripts in the drawer, they had a love story subtext, even if I never read a romance and didn't really know what I was doing.
Right. Yeah.
So when I realized that, okay, I want to be a writer, and realized that I love romance, I went and got help. And a childhood friend of mine, her sister-in-law has a company that she advises writers. Her background's very interesting. She did romance intake, and she was also a sex worker, and she was also an editor, and she lives in San Francisco with her wife. So she's a lot of fun.
Check.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I started writing a story about, funny how these things happen, a woman's recovery from depression and like sexual repression and all this stuff. And I contacted Christy and asked her, like, I don't know what I'm doing, help me. And so she gave me feedback on writing, editing, story, plot, but also marketing. I'm going to put it under that umbrella. I usually just call it making friends on the internet. But
that's probably a really good way to think about it. Makes it less scary.
Well, because what better way to find people that are into the same stuff as you,
Yeah.
So she had me put my first story out there. She encouraged me to put it out there. And this is about 2015, so 10 years ago. And I put it on Wattpad. And the long story short is it ended up winning a prize on Wattpad. It won which is the world's largest online writing competition. There were 75,000 entries, and it won like a staff pick kind of award. So it wasn't like the most read, or it wasn't any of that, but it was this story about a woman who, like I said, recovered from depression, recovered from sexual repression with the help of a very sexy surfer. And I kind of looked and said, well, maybe I should just keep going.
Yeah.
So I wrote the next book and the next book and the next book. Those books were traditional male-female romance. Although even in the first one, they're bisexual characters. I don't think I've ever not done that.
Just couldn't stomach it.
Yeah, just the world is, yeah. But so now I'm just about 10 years on my author journey. Had a lot of ups and downs. And I could kind of get to where I got into writing more queer romance, if you like. But that's sort of, so the origin is, it saved my life.
Yeah.
Like, literally. And I think that the more important part about it is I stopped listening to this voice in my head of what I should do. And I did what I really wanted to do. I started listening to this voice that had been there since I was 2, that told me, I love stories. I love reading. I want to be a writer. I just don't know how to do it. And then I got help in how to do it. And I guess that's the short story. But every single book, oh my goodness, I would get so scared putting them out. But then I kind of figure, if I'm not scared, I'm not pushing myself far enough. So anyway,
that's a great way to think about that. Thank you for sharing that. I think it's so important for people who don't realize. I worked in an outpatient mental health facility for several years. I myself live with anxiety and depression, and I try to talk about it as frequently and as normally as I possibly can to try to destigmatize it. And a thing that I think a lot of people don't realize is, you are a classic case of somebody who can fall victim to that disease, because it is often the people who we look at and we say they have all their shit together, they're doing fine, and we ignore any warning signs that there might be, or we're so high achieving, we're really good at hiding them. And it doesn't have to look to the outside world like a person is depressed or suicidal for them to be depressed and suicidal. And I'm so glad that your friends stepped in and helped, and you put in the work. And then this amazing passion that you had came in and also like buoyed you up. And for anybody who's going through it, know that it has to be all those things, No, it's
absolutely.
never just one magic thing that fixes you. It's not, the medication's not magic, the therapy's not magic, the passions aren't magic, but it's the work you put into all of them that can really pull you through it and take you to the other side.
Yeah, exactly. I really think that mental health is a key part of my platform. And for me, I really had to hit rock bottom. And the thing about that rock bottom is that I decided it was rock bottom. Yeah. I said, I feel so bad. I don't want to feel any worse than this. And so I feel so, I don't usually talk about myself this much, but I really tried to get humble and be like, okay, tell me what to do. Tell me. And so whatever any therapist, professional friend, book told me to do, I did it. From movement to journaling to medication to whatever, I did it and just sort of said, okay, let me do what is going to fix this, because it's, I just didn't want to feel that way anymore.
Yeah.
And it probably took about 1.5 years. And I still suffer from anxiety. But I can really say the depression's gone. And I think it's because I spend a lot of time writing and doing what I love. And I learned a lot in that. Some friends of mine call it hitting the wall. You just hit the wall. Couldn't go any further than that.
Yeah. Good. Well, I hope that remains the case for many, many years to come. And the writing continues to be this beautiful part of your life that is healing.
Yeah. And I think it translates to, anybody listening, whatever it is that they like to do. I have a friend who, the word's not decoupage, but he makes cups. He puts an epoxy on them and decorates cups. And I think that keeps him happy because it's creative. I think that there are people who can be creative in how they put together a party. Or I'm not an extrovert, I'm an introvert. Yeah. But, there are so many ways of looking at what really sings. And if you haven't let yourself do it, like I didn't really. And I think the key part for me too was sharing it with other people, because I had been secretly writing, but it was like a shameful thing. It was I don't share this. I'm embarrassed about it. I don't know if it's good enough. All these imposter syndrome kind of things. So I gotta get kind of brave and
Take
get
the
some
leap.
help. Yeah.
No, it is.
So
I mean, it's an incredibly vulnerable thing to put your artwork out in the world, and ask for people to let you know what they think, which the market does, whether we want it, whether we would like it for it to do that or not. If you're putting your work out there for somebody to buy, you are then inviting them to tell you what they think about it.
yeah, precisely. And I mean, I do it too. There are whatever books, songs, movies that I like, and ones that I don't care for as much. But I think being on the creator side of this has given me a much greater appreciation for anybody who does make anything.
For sure.
It's hard.
For sure. Yeah.
It can be hard.
Yeah. I would love to talk a little bit about some of your influences as a writer. Who inspires you?
Oh gosh. So I actually looked at my Kindle stats to see how many books I read. And these stats are inflated because I will get to your question, because I email myself my own book to read it on my Kindle.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But so in 2024, I had 324 books read, and 2023 was 531. 2022 was 486. The year before was 443. The year before was 409. And the year before was 526. So it's about a book a day.
Damn.
So I almost want to answer your question saying it's an aggregate of everybody. Right? And you learn and grow, and there's books that are perhaps, I'm going to call it a gateway book, like 50 Shades, or perhaps in the MM world, it might be Him or Us, or there's other ones, but they're different, kind of depending on what generation you are. The book that I think throughout my life that I've looked at the most is called A House Like a Lotus by Madeleine L'Engle. She wrote Wrinkle in Time. I don't know if I pronounced her last name right. I've only ever heard it pronounced that way.
Right. Yeah. No, I think that's right. Correct. She was my favorite author growing up.
So
we've taken the pilgrimage when we go to New York. We visited her internment site.
Okay, so you're after my own heart.
Yeah.
So have you read House Like a Lotus?
I love her. In fact, I don't. Oh, it's not in this room anymore. I have a poster of a swiftly tilting planet from like an original print run poster that they did to promote that book. I found it in a thrift shop in Kansas City, and I got it framed, and it's in my office. I'm looking at it right now.
After my own heart.
But it's I was like, it's right behind me. I was like, oh no, that's a different book thing.
Yeah, you're after my own heart.
Love her.
That book, I think, I probably reread it every other year, which is pretty often considering I think I read it in the 90s first.
Right.
And it's the girl sort of goes on her own leaves an island off the east coast of the United States, and goes to work at a place in Greece. And she's fleeing this mentor to her, and the sort of, it's written very, I don't know when it was written, 70s, 80s. There is the reason why she's leaving in part because she's so upset. There's a variety of reasons, but one is because this woman was very drunk, when she was leaving, but in part also because she's part of a lesbian couple. And that really, I don't know, the book made me think, because it's of that time, but it's about forgiveness and acceptance, and kind of at the end, there's this wholehearted spirit about it. And I think that spirit of the time, inclusiveness has really affected me.
Yeah.
And then I could probably list some books that I've read recently that I just really adored and feel like I don't know the authors that well, but oh my God, can be my friend. Like an example, I'm just do some shout outs, like Slade James. He wrote books that are like about bears, like not the shifter kind.
Not like the Berenstain Bears.
Right. When I read his, and I actually reached out to him and told him, when I read his words, I felt like I was listening to an old friend.
Mm.
You know, I thought that they were lyrical. I thought that the books were, he had the same cultural references as me. He had the same spirit about it. And so that really, I loved that. Recently I read, Zio Axelrod's stories, like Girls with Bad Reputations, and some of the, I want to live in that world.
Yeah.
I'm currently reading an indie book, and I don't know how to say their name. I think it's Moss, Mawce Hanlon. Forgive me if it's not correct. But this book is just the coolest thing I've ever read in my life. It's called Under the Dragon Moon, and it's about a trans main character and a cis main character. And it's like this magic world where the author themselves drew like pictures in the chapter headings, and there's just all this character art, and it's so rich, and I'm just like, I love reading it. So what's my influence? Stuff in the past,
everything. Yeah,
thousands of books. I don't know.
I love that. I love that you're still getting so much joy from this, from the activity in general, but our genre, and finding other queer stories that are lighting you up. I mean, it's clear how much they light you up, and I think that that's really awesome. Especially, I'm going to say it, in current times, you know, like to find the things that bring you joy and to be passionate about them unapologetically, it's hard to do, because there's always that niggling in the back of your mind being like, well, but things are sad. It's like, well, this is how we get through. Let our passions light us up. So
I really have to focus on what it is I want. I've seen those memes where it's like, you know, this like happy author, you're promoting the book with a dumpster fire in the back.
right behind you. Like, yeah.
But it's what, you know, aware.
And I always say too, like, queer joy is resistance. Like, they want to steal our joy. Let's have joy. And that's why Queers and Quills is going to be so much fun and so important, because it is a time for us to gather and to celebrate one another and to just have a really fucking good time, you know? And it's enough just to do all of that. That is resistance. So if somebody were coming to your work for the first time, where would you say start here?
That's kind of a tough question to
I know. Every author's like, why would you even ask me that?
I'm always curious about what the person is interested in.
Right.
I think that the generic answer, if they want to read an LGBTQ plus story, would probably be my book Undone, because that was the first one that I published in this genre.
Mm-hmm.
There was like I said before, there was kind of I've been publishing for 10 years. There was a 2-year period where I wrote every day. I didn't publish anything because the stories didn't work. I sent it to a beta reader. They're like, nope. And another one, nope. And so turning to more, I'm going to say MM, but I don't consider myself to be an MM writer. I consider myself just to be just love stories.
Right.
And I'll eventually get to whatever pairings, eventually whatever. But with Undone, there had been a viral Reddit story about a guy who wrote in that he was worried he was homophobic because he kept getting pissed off at his gay roommate's dates. And so like he was writing in going like, I don't want to be like this. Why am I getting so mad at him? And then somebody in the comments, but dude, maybe you're jealous. And because you want to be dating him. And like the Reddit thread went on of, my sister talked with me, and actually that was the thing. And, you know, now I'm, you know, watching Quentin Tarantino movies with the guy, and we kissed. I personally thought that story was like a fairy tale, like Cinderella, or something where you could take the story beats and use it universally. So I credited that story in the front of the book. But that is the basis for my book Undone. And I was so excited about this. During COVID, Serena Bowen had started a world where she would let authors write in their world. And she asked us to send in outlines, and I sent her 40,000 words.
Oh, God.
I was a little enthusiastic.
Straight A student, overachiever. You don't say.
Well, for this one, though, I do feel like it was genuine enthusiasm and love rather than trying to. It was like, please pick me. And even if she
No.
didn't pick me, I would have written the story in a different world because I was just thought it was so beautiful. And then after that, so I'm done. The other one, honestly, would probably be the one that you narrated, which is called Ambiguous. The story for that one is a friend of mine who takes a lot of my cover photographs for me. He sent me the Harry Styles video for Falling, which I had not listened to Harry Styles and had not seen the video. And the video is very, if you haven't seen it, it's very beautiful. Harry's sort of at a piano and eventually gets sort of drowning in water. And it's very gorgeous and ethereal. And I thought, okay, well, this is really gorgeous. And then this is probably TMI, but I went to take a shower myself. And in the shower, the story came to me.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Downloaded. And so I was like wearing a towel, dripping on the floor, scribbling out this story. And I think it's also probably the most reflective of me. I mean, they all are, but the underlying story has to do with a character, I'm not going to say rejecting labels, but not knowing, people wanting to force him into a label that he's not comfortable with.
Yeah.
And I think that that's me. So
yeah. Labels are tough because some people need them and some people bristle at them, you know, and you have to go person by person and find out what the comfort level is.
Yes. And they can give so much comfort of like, oh, I found community. These are my people. You've experienced the same thing I have. Cool.
Yeah.
But so I will say I was so excited to see that you were one of the choices for narrator. So I whenever I see that you're on the list, I'm just like, I mean, on a book out there, it's like a reason to buy it. But I'll tell you a funny story. It's because the other narrator, I didn't realize who he was.
Right, because he uses a pseudonym.
Because he used a pseudonym. And so when I got the recordings back, I was listening to it going, wait a minute, I love this guy. Yeah. So it was really funny because I was like, how did I end up with my two favorite narrators on the book? That's really incredible. So Fate.
Yeah. And as I told you before we started recording, I had a ton of fun with that book. It was great fun. I mean, I never ever feel like I have enough time to work with a co-narrator to like really gel, but because I was so familiar with his work already, it felt like, yeah, I got this. We can do this. No problem. So, and it is great fun. So I also recommend it.
Yeah. I have some readers stop me and tell me that it's her comfort listen. She's listened to it, 8 times or whatever. And so
I love that.
So I guess
I can't relate to it, but I love it when I hear those things because I'm always like, me 8 times? Ugh. I get sick of the sound of my own voice. I can't imagine other people. But yeah, I get it. And you have another book in that series that's going to be like out by the time Queers and Quills starts, right?
Correct. It's out actually in less than a week. So actually, if I can show it just because it's fun. So my photographer friend who is, when I told him I had, after that idea with the hairstyles inspired one, I said, well, maybe I'll write 6 books because I started scribbling down like who other characters could be.
Yeah.
And he said, Roy G. Biv. I said, what? He said, Roy G. Biv. And I said, that doesn't mean anything to me. He said, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. Do each of the colors. Yeah. Covers and one of the colors of the rainbow. And so it's, I know that it can't be shown on the podcast, but I will show up that I now have like the colors of the rainbow. It took me 3 years. But the one that's coming out next week is the last one in that series, and it's called Ferocious. And it's about a murdery pink-haired twink, and a very grumpy lawyer.
Love it. Murdery pink-haired twink. I can say genuinely it's the first time I've heard that description.
And so much of this stuff is based on real life. Like one of the main characters, the pink-haired dude, has baby boy tattooed on the back of his neck. The reason why is because I saw a dude with he was getting his nails done in front of me, and he had baby boy tattooed on the back of his head. I was like, that's the sexiest thing I've ever seen. Oh my God. He was adorable. And then the first chapter of the book, the character's driving around and he has a plant in a macrame hanger hanging from the passenger seat. And that's because I saw somebody in my town with a plant hanging from the passenger seat. My editor was like, how do they do that with the headliner? I'm like, I have no idea. But anyway, so
I love it.
And then, like I said, the ambiguous is about what are labels. I consider ferocious, and actually it's kind of a funny story, which I put in the acknowledgments, but consider ferocious to be on theme about what is a happily ever after, which is, it's the last book in this story. And I don't think that queer relationships have to have the same happily ever after as a hetero one. You know, it's not just like get married and have kids and live in a house with a picket fence. Maybe you can go on a murder spree. No, I'm kidding.
No, yeah. Well, I mean,
totally kidding about that.
But yeah. Well, and even with most romances, we say happily ever after. Aren't they all happily for now? Really? Like, because you just don't know as life evolves. And I'm a big fan of the notion that, like, just because a relationship ends doesn't mean it wasn't successful. Like, it may just be that there was a person who was in your life for a season who really needed to be there and you needed to be there for them, or multiple people. I think we got to get away from this notion that, like, a lifelong contract is the only way to say you've had a successful relationship. Like,
oh, absolutely. Yeah,
absolutely. Okay, Leslie, we're supposed to play a game, but we're technically already over time. So we're going to do a few rounds. Sometimes I need the game to get people talking, and sometimes we have to just slip in a few rounds at the end just to make sure we do it. We treat everyone equally. So the rules of the game are simple. I have a deck of cards. On each card's a question. Some are biographical, some are hypothetical, some are silly. But I will not be picking the questions. Fate will. I'm going to deal 3 cards. You'll pick one. You're agreeing to answer it. You can decline to answer the question if you turn it around on me once, or you can choose a bookish question from the white deck, but then you're only dealt 1 card and you have to answer it. So, are you ready to play?
Yes.
All right. Card 1, card 2, or card 3?
1.
What is the scariest sound you could hear in the middle of the night?
I don't know. I'm thinking something like, Mom, there's a there's a leak in the house, or the roof's caved in, or something like that. Actually, can I answer it differently?
Sure.
I live in Southern California. We've had recent fires and windstorms, and a tree branch of a tree in my house, during one of the firestorms and windstorms, fell onto my roof, knocked out all our power, and I heard it fall. And so I'm going to call that. That was the scariest thing, is a tree falling on my house and ripping out the power.
Yep. Easily. Card 1, card 2, or card 3? 2. All right. What's the longest you've ever waited in line for something, and what is it?
Back in the 90s, Depeche Mode appeared in Los Angeles, and the line to see them was blocks long, and it was so long that nobody got in, and the radio station in charge actually ended up mailing people tapes of the some special tape. So I would consider that, because I waited and never saw them. And it was like, ow. I mean, I don't remember what time we got there, but let's say it was 7 o'clock. I'm sure we got there at noon or something. And then after, so.
Yeah. Wow. Back in the day when you couldn't count on just seeing cell phone footage, you had to show up. All right. Last one. Card 1, card 2, or card 3? 3. Have you ever been bitten or attacked by an animal?
Yes. I have a scratch on my wrist right now from my kitten. So I live on a orange tree farm in Southern California, And in October, we found a probably 2 or 3 day old baby kitten. He had his eyes still shut. He was covered in fleas. And we could not find the mom. So I learned how to take care of a kitten. So we bottle fed him formula, cleaned him up, kept him warm. I had to take him to the office with me, like carrying around a kitten. We named him Mike because I thought it was funny. And so Mike is now, however, not quite 6 months old. And he is absolutely the softest, furriest, purriest little dude. But oh my goodness, sometimes it's like 20% wicked. And
like all cats.
The zoomies. And so, yes, I got attacked by Mike on my wrist.
A very gentle story for an animal attack. But, and I'm so glad you found him because, poor sweet baby.
Yes. I put some videos on some of my social media of him because he's really, having this little ball of fur that's twitching to now he's full-grown kitten. So
what love can do for all of us, including our animals. So thank you for taking the time to do this, Leslie. I so appreciate it. This has been fun.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, it was my pleasure. And thank you, listeners, for joining us for Queers and Quills, the official podcast. If you're already signed up to attend Queers and Quills, make sure to say hello to me and to Leslie at the Oregon Convention Center in May. And if you're not, follow Queers and Quills on Instagram so you can see what we're doing this year and get updates about ticket availability in the future. Until next time, I'm Kirt Graves, and I hope you're having a very gay day. Queers and Quills, the official podcast, is produced and hosted by Kirt Graves, in coordination with Mahogany Mail and Marley Valentine. All copyrighted material is shared with permission. Music and sound effects are licensed through Storyblocks Audio. All opinions shared are those of the individuals and do not reflect the positions or policies of any company or organization with which they happen to be associated.